Hello, the topic for today is India in the 6th century BC, Rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Let's see the subheadings and contents in this chapter. Sources to reconstruct the two religious reform movements, Jainism and Buddhism. In that, we have literary sources, archaeological sources. A brief political history of India in 6th century BC, reasons why Magadha became a powerful kingdom, causes which favored the rise of Jainism and Buddhism, VARDHAMAN MAHAVIRA and Jainism. In that, we have life of Mahavira, teachings of Mahavira and main doctrines of Jainism, factors that led to the growth of Jainism, causes of decline of Jainism, Jain Digambaras and Shwetambaras, impact of Jainism on Indian culture and society. Let's see the continuation of subheadings and its contents in this slide. Buddhism, life of Gautama Buddha, the Great Renunciation, the Enlightenment, teachings of Lord Buddha and main doctrines of Buddhism, spread and growth of Buddhism. Mahayana and Hinayana Buddhism, in that we have Mahayana Buddhism, Hinayana Buddhism and differences between the two sects, causes of decline of Buddhism, impact of Buddhism on Indian culture and society, Buddhist and Jain cave temples, Chaityas and monasteries, VIHARAS. In that we have Chaitya at Karle, VIHARAS at Udayagiri. Jainism and Buddhism, a comparative study, in that we have similarities between the two religions, contrast between Jainism and Buddhism. We shall discuss mainly two sects which have greatly influenced our society and culture. Sources to reconstruct the two religious reform movements, Jainism and Buddhism. Literary sources: Buddhist sacred literature, which was written in Pali, Prakrit, Sanskrit and mixed Sanskrit. We have Jatakas. The Jataka tales written in Pali deal with the previous births of Lord Buddha. They also throw light on political, economic and social conditions ranging from 5th to 2nd century BC. There are more than 550 such stories. The three Pitakas. The three Pitakas or the three baskets are also written in Pali. Sutta Pitaka, which contains the Buddha's teachings and sayings of Buddha, it tells us about the origin of universe and unnatural character of the caste system. Abhidhamma Pitaka represents philosophical interpretation of doctrines contained in Sutta Pitaka. Vinaya Pitaka contains rules for the guidance of Buddhist monks and nuns. It gives a list of sins and offenses likely to be committed by members of the Buddhist Sangha and the punishment they deserved. The next literary source is 12 Angas. A Jain council at Pataliputra collected and compiled the teachings of Mahavira and Jain religious literature into 12 Angas. The 12 Angas contain the rules for Jain monks and teachings of Jain Tirthankaras or spiritual gurus. These works written in Ardha Magadhi are divided into many subsections or parts such as Upangas, Pakirnas, Sutras and other texts. Archaeological sources. The archaeological sources fall into several categories. The Great Stupa at Sanchi with sculptures which depict episodes from Buddha's life, a Jain temple at Shravanabelgola in Karnataka, and the Sarnath temple which has the wheels or dharmachakras depicting the propagation of message of Buddha to all parts of the world. Gandhara, which is now known as Kandahar, along with Punjab, became one of the most significant schools of early Indian art. This Gandhara school produced a number of fine sculptures of Buddha and Bodhisattvas. A brief political history of India in the 6th century BC. The Aryan settlements had now turned into large territories called Janapadas. The bigger and more powerful among them were called Mahajanapadas. There were 16 such Mahajanapadas in the late 7th and 6th centuries BC. The four important kingdoms were Avanti, Vatsa, Kosala. From about 542 BC up to 492 BC, Bimbisara ruled over Magadha, who was a great devotee of Buddha, and he gave much support to Jain Tirthankara Mahavira. Ajatasattu was the son of Bimbisara, who ruled Magadha between 492 BC to 460 BC. Reasons why Magadha became a powerful kingdom. There were many reasons why Magadha grew into a powerful kingdom. It had large fertile plains. It had iron in large quantities, which was useful in those days and used for making weapons and agricultural implements. Moreover, Magadha had a large standing army, which was first to employ the elephants in the warfare. Ajatasattu has a new type of chariot called Radhamusala with a long piece of tree which was attached to it and which caused a great damage and loss to the enemy. Causes which favored the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Ritualistic Vedic religion. The simple religion of early Aryans was replaced by meaningless rituals and complicated ceremonies. People became discontented with the religious beliefs and practices of that age. Killing of animals to perform sacrifices. The simple sacrifices of early Vedic period was discarded and replaced by expensive yajnas. A large number of animals had to be killed for the ceremonial sacrifices and yajnas. People therefore resented such meaningless sacrifices. Supremacy of priestly class. With the introduction of elaborate rites and rituals, the priestly class came to occupy a position of supremacy in the society. The priests dominated the life of man from birth to death. People turned against these priests who made the religion complicated and who made it expensive and burdensome. Let's see some of the causes in the next slide. Some of the other causes which favored the rise of Jainism and Buddhism can be discussed as follows. The caste system. In the course of time, the caste became rigid like watertight compartments. Caste was decided according to birth and not according to profession. People belonging to lower caste were ill-treated by higher caste. The Buddha Sangha was therefore thrown open to all equally. Difficult Vedic language. The Vedic literature had been written in Sanskrit, which was beyond the comprehension of common people. Many could not understand the Vedic mantras recited by Brahmin priests. Efforts of religious reformers. The unrest against the evils that had crept into Vedic religion and society led to the rise of a number of intellectuals and holy men. Vardhamana Mahavira and Gautama attracted many who were longing to be liberated from oppression of Brahminical order. Vardhaman Mahavira and Jainism. Let's learn the life of Mahavira. Mahavira's original name was Vardhamana and he was born at Kundagrama, which is known as Basukunda in Bihar. No one is certain about his date of birth, but historians believe that he was born in 599 BC. His father was Siddhartha and was head of Kshatriya clan, and his mother was Trishala. Though Vardhamana was instructed in all branches of knowledge, he showed more interest in spiritual matters. He was married to beautiful Princess Yashoda and a daughter was born to him. When he was 20 years old, after the death of his parents, Vardhamana renounced all worldly pleasures. He left his home in search of truth. He lived the life of an ascetic and practiced rigorous penance and deep meditation. In the 13th year of his life as an ascetic, he attained the true knowledge, Kevala Gnana. Vardhamana came to be known as Mahavira, the great hero, or Jina, the conqueror of self, and his followers came to be known as Jains. After attaining spiritual knowledge, he traveled from place to place preaching his doctrines. He received support from the royal families of Kosala, Magadha, Avanti. Bimbisara and Ajatasattu of Magadha honored him highly. He attained nirvana at the age of 72 at Pava in Patna district. Teachings of Mahavira and main doctrines of Jainism. The five vows. Mahavira laid great emphasis on the principles of ahimsa, which is non-violence, satya, not telling a lie, asateya, not to steal, aparigraha, non-attachment to worldly things, and brahmacharya, celibacy. No belief in God. Mahavira did not believe in the existence of God. He had no faith in the theory that God created the world. Man can escape from his misery and suffering only through leading a life of renunciation. Nirvana or salvation. Mahavira accepted the current theories of karma and rebirth. The main aim of one's life is to attain salvation. Man can be liberated from cycle of birth and rebirth by following three ratna, that is three gems: right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. Rejection of Vedic rituals and yajnas. The Jains do not attach any importance to meaningless rites and ceremonies and sacrificial rituals of Brahmanical religion. To treat people on an equal basis and opposition to the caste system. Mahavira believed in all equality of beings. All have the right to attain nirvana by leading a pure life. He preached that there should not be any discrimination on the grounds of caste. He even favored the freedom of women and allowed them to join the Jain Sanghas. Belief in penance. The Jains' belief in penance was directed to live strict lives. To starve oneself to death was regarded as a great virtue. Factors that led to the growth of Jainism. The simple doctrines of Mahavira attracted many followers. Mahavira used the common language of masses instead of Sanskrit. Mahavira left behind a strong organized religious order of Jain Munis for the propagation of his doctrines. Royal patronage led to the growth of Jainism. The missionary zeal of Jain Munis helped the spread of Jainism all over the country. Causes of decline of Jainism. The loss of royal patronage hampered the growth of Jainism. Other factors are common people found it difficult to follow the severe penance and austerity advocated by Mahavira. After Mahavira's nirvana, Jainism was subdivided into two sects: Shvetambaras, clad in white, and Digambaras, sky-clad or naked. Such divisions made it impossible to continue any concrete religious or social work among the people. The revival of Brahmanism was also a great setback to the Jainism. Jain Digambaras and Shvetambaras. The split. Decisions taken at the council were not acceptable to the southern Jains. Thus arose the two sects, the Digambaras and the Shvetambaras. Their main difference. Both sects believe that Jains should live simple and strict lives. Their main difference is that Digambara Munis ascetics remain completely nude. They do not keep even a small piece of cloth on their bodies. The Shvetambara Munis, on the other hand, wore white clothes. Impact of Jainism on Indian culture and society. Growth of vernacular languages. A major portion of Jain literature was written in Prakrit. Mahavira preached in mixed dialect called Ardhamagadi in order to make it easy for people to understand his teachings. Ardhamagadi was later compiled into 12 books called the Angas. Art and architecture. The Jains erected stupas built of stone to honor their saints. They built many rock-cut cave temples. The famous caves at Ellora in Maharashtra are fine examples of their architecture and sculpture. The colossal statue of Gomateshwara at Shravanabelgola in Karnataka is another example of their skill in sculpture. The beautiful Jain temple at Mount Abu in Rajasthan are some of the best specimens of Jain architecture. Religion. The Jains were the first to make ahimsa, non-violence, a rule of life. Later, generations after generations, these ideals were continued. Social impact and welfare of mankind. The teachings of Mahavira led his followers to pay more attention to humanitarian services. They engaged themselves in social works and public utility by opening schools and hospitals. They built a number of inns for benefit of travelers. Buddhism. Life of Gautama Buddha. In the 6th century BC, India became the birthplace of popular religious movement known as Buddhism. It was founded by Kshatriya Prince Gautama, who was the son of Sudodhana, the chief of Sakya clan of Kapilavastu. Gautama was born about the year 567 BC in the village of Lumbini near Kapilavastu. Even at a young age, his mind was inclined towards deep spiritual matters and he was not attracted to luxuries of royal life. The sight of an old man, a sick man, and a dead body made him think seriously of the futility of worldly pleasures. He happened to see an ascetic whose calm serenity greatly attracted him. These sights were called the four great sights in Buddha's life. The Great Renunciation. Gautama's mind was set on finding a solution to the problems of human suffering and death. At the age of 29, he broke all his worldly ties and left his palace as an ascetic in search of truth. This event came Mahaparityaga, the enlightenment. Gautama visited many places and practiced severe penance. He sat under a peepal tree at Bodh Gaya and attained spiritual knowledge through meditations and ultimately became Buddha or the Enlightened One. Next 45 years he moved from place to place in preaching simple messages and attained nirvana at Kushinagara in 486 BC at the age of 80 years. Teachings of Lord Buddha and main doctrines of Buddhism. Four noble truths were followed. World is full of sorrow and suffering. Main cause of suffering is man's desire, Trishna. Suffering can be removed by getting rid of desires and renunciation. One can overcome desires by following eightfold path. Let's see the eightfold path or the middle path. Right faith, right aspiration, right action, right living, right speech, right effort, right meditation, right contemplation. In this slide, we will discuss the main doctrines of Buddhism. The Eightfold Path is being one of them, which was discussed in the previous slide. Next to Eightfold Path is the Karma theory. Buddha believed in the theory of karma. Whatever a man sows, he repays. Neither sacrifice nor any prayers to God can change a man's destiny. Nirvana. Man's ultimate aim in life is to attain nirvana, the final bliss which is free from desire and sorrow. Existence of God. Buddha was silent on existence of God. Scholars have interpreted his silence as disbelief. Ahimsa. One of the prominent teachings of Buddha was ahimsa. He was strongly against anyone causing harm to any living being. No faith in caste system. Buddha vehemently opposed the caste system as he believed that all men are equal and that there should not be any caste distinction. Emphasis on character. Buddha laid great stress on the development of moral character. He emphasized that moral living was more important than worship. He insisted on truthfulness in speech, love, and benevolence for others. Kindness to all living beings, obedience to parents, respect for elders, chastity, and abstinence from intoxicating drinks. Spread and growth of Buddhism. Simple teachings of Buddha. Buddha's teachings were quite simple. He was against complicated rituals and ceremonies. Simple language. Buddha and his disciples used only popular dialects as vehicles for their teachings and discarded complicated Sanskrit. The two categories. The followers of Buddha were divided into two groups, the Upasakas or lay disciples who lived with their families, and bhikshus or monks who became ascetics after renouncing the world. Attack on the institution of caste. The members of Buddhist faith enjoyed equal rights without any discrimination between rich and the poor. Leadership of Buddha. Buddha was very model of calm and sweet majesty. He was the master of art of conversation and was seldom disturbed even at great provocation. The Buddhist Sangha. Buddha founded the Buddhist Sangha to spread his teachings far and wide. The male members were called bhikshus. Even women were allowed to join the Sangha as bhikshunis or nuns. Royal patronage. Great rulers like Ashoka, Kanishka, and Harsha embraced Buddhism. The rulers made Buddhism the great state religion and popularized it. Buddhist councils. The Buddhist councils held discussion on various important religious issues connected with Buddhism. The Buddhist universities. The universities at Nalanda, Taxila, and Gaya became important centers of Buddhist education. Scholars from these universities made valuable contribution to spread of Buddhism and attracted students from even foreign countries. Mahayana and Hinayana Buddhism. Let's see the Mahayana Buddhism. They believed that Buddha was an incarnation of God like Rama and Krishna. They accepted the Hindu theory of reincarnation and believed that Buddha was an incarnation of Adi Buddha who came for salvation of mankind. Emphasis was placed on efficacy of worship and devotion to Buddha as a personal savior. They worshipped the images of Buddha and prayed for forgiveness and for the salvation. They introduced many rituals and ceremonies and charms into their religious worship. The images of bodhisattvas were made and worshipped in the belief that they acted as intercessors between sinful persons and the Buddha. They adopted Sanskrit for the writing of their scriptural texts. Hinayana Buddhism and differences between the two sects. Hinayanas believed that Buddha was a teacher and followed his simple teachings, and they belonged to the original sect. Mahayanas believed that Buddha was an incarnation of God. Hinayanas followed the Eightfold Path, whereas the Mahayanas followed the concept of nirvana to be cold and remote. New ideas of gorgeous heavens came to be developed by them. The Hinayanas had no faith in idol worship, whereas the Mahayanas believed in idol worship. Hinayanas used Pali as their language. Mahayanas used Sanskrit as their language. Let's see the causes of decline of Buddhism. Revival of Brahmanical Hinduism. The efforts of great Brahmin scholars like Shankaracharya and Kumarila Bhatta led to the revival of Hinduism. Loss of royal patronage. The Gupta rulers were zealous followers of Hinduism. They encouraged their religion and Sanskrit language. Split in Buddhism. During the reign of Kanishka, Buddhism was split into two sects, the Mahayana and the Hinayana. Corruption in the Buddhist Sangha. The rich monasteries collected a large revenue from vast estates that were donated to the monasteries. Eventually, corruption crept in. Adoption of Sanskrit. In all his religious discourses, Buddha used the language of people like Pali or Prakrit, which attracted the masses. Later, the Buddhist scriptures began to be written in Sanskrit, making the people drift away from Buddhism. The Turkish invasion. When the Muslim conquerors invaded India, many Buddhist temples and monasteries which possessed immense wealth were looted and destroyed. The Muslim invasion was a great blow to the Buddhism, as many Buddhists were persecuted and many were killed. Impact of Buddhism on Indian culture and society. Impact on religion. Buddha's simple doctrines made their impact on Hinduism. The principle of ahimsa, preached and practiced in Buddhism, became very popular. The Mahayana Buddhists adopted the practice of worshipping Buddha and Bodhisattvas. The Hindus also followed the practice of Buddhas and built beautiful temples to worship their gods and goddesses with idols erected in the temples. Impact on literature and education. The greatest contribution of Buddha was its rich variety of religious literature in the language of the people. The Buddhist centers of learning developed into famous universities Nalanda, Taxila, Vikramasila, etc. Impact on art and architecture. The gateways and railings of Sanchi Stupa were covered with sculpted figures. They constructed cave temples, which were decorated with beautiful frescoes. The Gandhara art was developed under Buddhist patronage. How these ideas still affect our life. Although Buddhism as a movement has ended, it added much to the values of Indian culture. Buddha's firm belief in the principle of equality will live forever. Great leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore, and Radhakrishna followed the ideals of Buddhism. Buddhist and Jain cave temples called Chaityas and monasteries called Viharas. Let's look at Chaitya at Karle. The Chaitya situated at Karle in Pune, Maharashtra is considered one of the finest specimens of rock-cut architecture in India. The remarkable columns inside the Chaitya are of exceptional beauty and was made in 1st century BC. Each column is elaborately designed with a pot base, a shaft, and a capital on the top. The capitals have carvings of kneeling elephants. The Karle Chaitya was used for prayer meetings associated with Buddhist religion. Viharas at Udayagiri. The cave temple at Udayagiri in Odisha are Jain monuments belonging to the period of King Karvela of Kalinga. These caves were excavated during the period around 103 BC and 150 AD. Rani Gampa cave is the largest and the best of the caves at Udayagiri in Odisha. Jainism and Buddhism, a comparative study. First, we will try to find out the similarities between the two religions. The great teachers of both religions, Mahavira and Gautam Buddha, were Kshatriyas who rose against the rituals of Vedic religion. God, rituals, and Vedas had no place in both the religions. Both used the popular dialects as vehicles for their teachings. Non-violence was an indispensable part of their creed. According to both the religions, nirvana or moksha is one's ultimate aim in life. It is an escape from cycle of birth and rebirth. Both had organized monasteries for monks and nuns to live. In this last slide, we'll see the contrast between Jainism and Buddhism. Jain religion believed in severe asceticism, whereas Buddhism advocated the middle path. Jainism carried the principle of ahimsa to an extreme point, while Buddhism did not carry it to that end. Jains gave greater importance to the laity, people who helped to manage the affairs of the monastery, but who are not monks or nuns themselves. On the other hand, Buddhists relied more on Sangha. Buddhism could become a world religion, whereas Jainism was confined to the domains of India.